I am J.A. Plosker. At least that's what it says right here. But today, I also wear the label of TEDx speaker. You could also call me a writer, a teacher, a taxpayer, a guy who hates chunky tomato sauce. I'm also known as a husband and a father. But what if we peel back those labels? Well, who would I be? Well, underneath it all, I'm nobody. Well, what do you think of when I say the word nobody? Maybe you think of failure, being insignificant, anonymity in a world that defines success through achievement. For most people, being nobody isn't really something they get excited about, or for that matter, something they encourage a child to be. But when I think of being nobody, I think of a limitless, open, welcome release from the constant noise and relentless pressures of the world. And I can tell you that after years of study and teaching in philosophy, ancient wisdom, and comparative religion, as well as my own personal search, I've come to think of it as freedom. That's why I'm teaching my daughter to be nobody. To remember that the nobody part of her has just as much a claim to her future success and greatness as the somebody she'll inevitably be. And that doesn't make me a bad parent. The best day of my life was when my daughter was born. But it was also the day I realized why humanity has strayed so far from being nobody. Within 10 minutes of her birth, she'd been innocently barraged with labels: name, weight, height, gender. She got a certificate of authenticity. She was even scored on how likely she is to thrive. Within 11 minutes, she'd taken her first selfie, and by 12 minutes of being born, that photo had been seen by nearly 100 people. She had labels of approval and health. Now, those initial labels are cute and helpful, but here's the thing. Those labels get heavier as we get older. We're surrounded by expectations, pushed to excel. We're encouraged to be somebody. Height is marked on the wall. Our artwork is taped up in the classroom. Grades are assigned, ranks are revealed. We get jobs, we seek promotions, we share our victories. And along the way, probably beat ourselves up for what we didn't do, didn't become, or didn't do right. All of this turns us from people who want to be successful and have a good life into perfectionists, the ultimate state of somebodyness, the place where we forget our nobody nature. A recent study from the American Psychological Association found that perfectionism in youth in the US, UK, and Canada has been on the rise for the past 27 years. The study defined perfectionism as excessively high personal standards and overly critical self-evaluations, and suggests that the cause may be due to more competitive environments, unrealistic expectations, and more anxious or controlling parents. That push, right? That push to be somebody. So, some of this starts with the parents, right? The sickness and the cure. I remember realizing the weight of that responsibility. My 3-year-old daughter and I were drawing rainbows. And she drew a line that was just a little flatter on top, right, than the other nicely rounded curves. And she said, "Oh no." She went to start a brand new rainbow, even though the one she was working on was, of course, absolutely beautiful. So as her father, what can I do? Well, I can realize that these are pivotal moments to intervene and rewire this notion of perfectionism. To let her know that her rainbows are beautiful, just as they are, and that she doesn't need to be known as the perfect rainbow kid. her see that who she is and what she can offer this world is deeper and more lasting than that. To let her know that there's a side of her that does not depend on outward perfection or labels of approval or achievement, a part of her that's nobody. Of course, I had to come to that realization myself over many years. And for me, my wake-up call was almost 20 years ago. I was struggling to make a name for myself in this world. The year is 2002. Just graduated law school. I was lost in anxiety and depression, but I was desperate to prove myself, to land the perfect law firm job or prestigious clerkship that I had been programmed to want, to be a perfect legal somebody. Problem? Instead of achieving, I was beating myself up, measuring myself by what I could do or earn. Until one night, I found myself sitting across from a spiritual teacher of mine. And he said, you can ask one question, any question, and you'll have the ear of the universe. Well, what an opportunity. I knew this teacher. I knew what this meant. So of course I asked about the meaning of life. Right? No. Of course I asked about the purpose of life, right? No. I asked about my job. I was struggling, so I asked if I should continue to be a lawyer. And he said, what you do for a living doesn't define you. It's only work. He said, I'm going to have the universe bring you that message. It's only work. Great, thanks. Off I went, back home. Back to anxiety, back to depression, back to worrying about the future, back to striving for who knows what. But a few days later, my dad calls. And he says, hey, the strangest thing just happened. He said, I'm alone in the house here. A man's voice just spoke to me and said, call your son and tell him it's only work. What? He said, does that mean anything to you? It did. Those words slammed me back in the moment. And I realized that striving to be somebody in this great big world, regardless of profession, isn't the only purpose to life. Or at least not a purpose worth making myself sick over. I had to let go of this all-encompassing desire to be somebody. I dove headlong into the books that I collected over the years on ancient wisdom. Dove headlong into them with new eyes, new curiosity. This time, however, my search wasn't for some academic pursuit. I was just a guy in a search for a happier life. And then I found it. Nobody. The phrase, it's only work, came alive through ancient history. I didn't invent this. This isn't new. What I rediscovered is that there are many ways into this other side of our existence. This idea of being nobody. And most of it is stuff we already do right in our everyday lives. You may know it as nothing, emptiness, stillness, humility, transience. It's all around us. We live a second nobody life even if we don't know it, even if we're not aware of it, even when we're busy being the somebodies we've become. Over 2,000 years ago, Lao Tzu illustrated the power of emptiness in the Tao Te Ching when he wrote, clay is fashioned into vessels, but it is on their empty hollowness that their use depends. When we hear someone out from a place of non-judgment, we are living the nobody way. Maybe if we empty our minds and listen to someone instead of trying to fill their empty cup with our advice, we exemplify emptiness. Once in a while, create an empty space that someone else can fill. You do it just by being a good friend with a willing ear. In the Bible, Paul called it humility when he said that Jesus made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. He humbled himself, and therefore God exalted him to the highest place. Whether or not you believe in God is not the prerequisite. If we're looking for chances to serve in the midst of lives where we're also looking for chances to succeed, maybe we're closer to this nobody thing than we think. Opening a door for someone. Letting someone with a cranky toddler get ahead of us in line at the grocery store. They don't need to know your name, your job title, your spiritual preferences, or what kind of car you drive. You're just humbly stepping aside to make room for others, to serve. The Bhagavad Gita of Hindu tradition provides a powerful reminder of our transience on this earth, stating, as a person sheds worn-out garments and wears new ones, likewise, at the time of death, the soul casts off its worn-out body and enters a new one. Whether or not you believe in a soul or reincarnation, you can still believe that these bodies, these labels we live by, are temporary. It makes sense. All of these things sound like great starting points for all of us. But my daughter's 3. She has a hard time opening a door, much less the strength to hold it open for someone else. So how am I going to make all of this into something that she can practice now? Well, here are 3 ways this has shown up in her life. And by the way, there's no mystery here. This is all going to sound very familiar to you. 1, share with others. My wife and I say, when another child comes over and you have the urge to pull your toys away and yell, "Mine!" remember, they're a guest. Create a space in which to welcome and share. 2, let others talk. As you grow, you're going to have exciting experiences that you want to talk about. But other children have experiences too. Learn to share your story, then create a silent stage for someone else's story to shine. One light can help the other shine even brighter. And 3, help people to feel good. We have a superpower that can help people when they feel down. Kind words. Step out of your life once in a while and into someone else's experience and share a kind word you think they might need to hear. As parents, my wife and I are learning about our nobody sides as well. We guide our daughter, but we try to step back and let her lead. We set boundaries, but allow for flexibility. And we fall short sometimes when her actions or words don't match our expectations. But we learn with humility to do better in the next moment. As parents, we're mindful of our words and our actions because we never know which moment will be a lasting memory. We're programmed from birth to get in touch with the somebody side of ourselves that will bring us success and achievement on the world stage. But let me suggest that we also begin early on to teach children not only about the space they fill, but the importance of holding it for others. They may not do it, but they'll hear it. They may not embrace it, but they'll see your example. It's a delicate dance through life. It's a negotiation, it's an acknowledgement, and a mindful practice. And it needs to start as soon as possible. So let's teach our children this, that we can prefer, but make room for others' preferences. Achieve, but help others succeed. And wear labels, but understand that they don't last or define us completely. I believe that's not only the key to a more peaceful day or life, but a more peaceful world for our children. And then, as we grow, we can be a TEDx speaker, a writer, a teacher, a taxpayer, a guy who hates chunky tomato sauce, a husband and a father. But we can also be a blank canvas, willing ear, quiet supporter, space holder, patient friend, compassionate coworker, imperfect person, and someone who helps others to shine. If you have a child in your life who you love, encourage them to be somebody in this world. But also empower them to be the nobody who can change the world. Thank you.